This is Porch Lore. And I'm your host, Devin. This is the tale of the Sasquatch Stalker. You know those moments in life when something happens that you can never fully explain? Something that lingers in the back of your mind, no matter how much time passes? This is one of those moments for me. It started with a road trip. Not the kind you plan for months. Just a spontaneous, middle-of-the-night decision, fueled by restlessness and an old habit of chasing solitude in unfamiliar places. The plan was simple. Head down south, away from the city. Find a secluded Airbnb where I could clear my head for a few days. I've always been drawn to the quiet of the wilderness, the way it made the world feel smaller, as if I could press pause on everything for a while. I drove my usual route. I hopped on I-77 South and just drove. By the time I hit the Blue Ridge Mountains, I was getting a little tired, and I decided it was time to take a break and book a nearby Airbnb. This is a beautiful area to get some rest and relaxation. I found a cute little cabin about 2 hours away, booked it with the host, and then I was back on the road, headed deeper into the mountains now. The drive stretched into the late hours. It took longer than I had thought it would, and I barely noticed as civilization thinned out behind me. The further I went, the more the road narrowed, twisting through dense trees that loomed taller with every mile. My GPS lost service half an hour before I arrived, but I wasn't worried. The directions were straightforward enough, just a few turns after passing an old general store that looked like it had been abandoned decades ago. The air was thick with fog when I finally pulled up to the cabin, its wooden frame barely visible through the haze. There was something unsettling about the silence there. An unnatural stillness that made me hesitate before stepping out of the car. The cabin was small, but well kept, tucked away at the edge of an isolated lake that stretched into darkness. The air was chilly and the trees swayed gently, though I couldn't hear the wind. It was the kind of quiet that was almost unnerving, like someone or something was watching me just out of sight. I brushed off the feeling. It's probably just the isolation. There were 0 streetlights, not even a dim glow from a surrounding property. I was completely isolated and it was pitch black outside. And the way my headlights cast strange shadows against the trees, I was probably just creeping myself out. Inside, the cabin was cozy enough. Rustic furniture, a fireplace, a cute old record player in the corner. There was no Wi-Fi and no cell service. Just a landline on the wall that I never planned on using. I lit a fire, unpacked a few things, and sat on the couch with a blanket wrapped around me. The quiet should have been comforting, but you know the type of quiet that isn't relaxing? The kind of quiet that gives you a foreboding feeling like something bad is about to happen? That's what it felt like. Then, about 15 minutes later, I heard a loud scream outside in the forest. Not even really a scream. It was more like a high-pitched yowl. You know the sound that Sasquatch supposedly makes? Yeah, it sounded like that. I walked over to the window facing the woods, and I peeked out the side of the drapes. But it was just too dark. I couldn't see anything. Neither porch light worked. There were no driveway lights, no street lights. There wasn't even a dim glow from a neighboring town's light pollution to illuminate the backyard. It was just pitch black night. I locked the doors, checked the windows, and forced myself back under the blanket. I barely slept, listening to every creak, every whisper of movement outside. I don't know what woke me, but when my eyes opened, the fire had burned low, the dim glow casting just enough light to see the outlines of the room. There was a sound outside, faint but distinct, something moving through the trees. Not the wind, not an animal, footsteps. My stomach tightened as I sat up, straining to hear. The footsteps were slow, deliberate, circling the cabin. The footsteps stopped right outside the window closest to the fireplace, and then I heard the window pane jiggle. Oh my God. Someone was trying to open the window. What do I do? I stayed perfectly still. I didn't move a muscle. Then I heard the footsteps start again, and they were heading towards the back door of the cabin. Then I heard the door handle jiggle. Thank God I checked all the locks before laying down. What do I do? I can't even call for help. I have no service on purpose. What was I thinking? I froze, barely breathing, my pulse hammering in my ears. I don't know how long I sat there waiting, but it felt like an eternity. Then I heard the footsteps walk away. Then I heard branches snapping as if someone had walked into the woods behind the house. I lay there in silence, scared to move, just thinking about what I should do next. At some point, exhaustion won, and I drifted off to sleep. Morning came, and with it, a fragile sense of relief. The daylight made the night feel distant, almost unreal. I stepped outside, taking in the fresh mountain air, wrapping my coat tight around me. The ground was undisturbed. No footprints, no signs that anyone had been out there last night. I told myself it was probably just the trees shifting in the cold and the sounds of the wildlife moving through the night. But I just couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone out there. I tried to enjoy the day, hiking through the woods, taking pictures of the lake, but that unease never left me. Every so often I felt it, that prickling sensation on the back of my neck, the certainty that I was being watched. I kept looking over my shoulder, scanning the trees, but nothing, just silence. That night I locked every door, double-checked the windows, and kept the fire burning high. I sat in the armchair, my phone, useless, in my lap, fingers gripping the blanket tight. It was just paranoia, just my mind turning the isolation into something sinister. But then, just past midnight, I heard it again. The slow, deliberate footsteps, circling, closer this time. Then, the wooden boards of the porch creaked under the weight of something heavy stepping onto the front porch. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. And then, a sound I will never forget. A long, scraping drag against the wooden door, as if something was tracing a fingernail or a claw against the grain. Every muscle in my body screamed to run, but I stayed still, heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. The scraping continued, deliberate and slow. Then it stopped. Then pure silence, which was somehow even worse. The silence stretched for so long that I thought whatever it was had left and that it was over. And then the doorknob to the front door twisted. I jumped up, stumbling backward, eyes locked on the door. The knob rattled again, harder this time. The door held. Thank goodness. Whatever was on the other side let out a low, guttural sound. Not human, but not like any animal I've ever heard either. And then, as suddenly as it started, it stopped. And again, silence. I sat there shaking until the fire burned down to embers, until the first light of dawn crept through the windows. Only then did I dare to move. When I finally opened the door, my breath caught in my throat. There on the porch were muddy footprints. But they weren't like any I had ever seen. They were too long, too narrow, almost human, but definitely not human. I didn't stay to find out what made them. I didn't even repack my stuff into a suitcase. I just grabbed my stuff in armfuls and threw my things into a giant pile in the back of my car, and I drove off without stopping, my heart racing the entire way home. I never found that cabin again. When I went back to find it, the listing had been removed, and the emails I've tried to send the host have all bounced back. The next time I was driving off of I-77, I decided to get off and try to find that creepy cabin again. But the directions I had saved in my phone led me to an empty lot, like it had never existed. But I know what I saw, and I know something was out there, something that didn't want me there. I'm Devin, and thanks for joining me, Porch Pals. For more stories like this, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and help me reach 1,000 subscribers. And remember, there's always room for one more on the porch.